Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex. My co-host Anthony, the Great Rivardo, coming off a big win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's freaking go! Right after the game, we're recording this, getting our instant analysis and thoughts on the game, the victory, and it was sloppy, man. You know, Anthony, it was sloppy. We barely came away with this, but there's a bunch of really big talking points we have to hit on, including Daniel Jones' injury, what to make of that, Colt McCoy, the officiating, Patrick Graham. The guy is a freaking genius and really how well this defense made adjustments in the second half to turn this game around. But Anthony, my friend, how are you doing after this big W?
I can't lie, I'm very uneasy right now. That was a very terrifying game. That was really scary towards the end. I thought the refs were going to somehow steal that game from us with a terrible pass interference call on Darnay Holmes
Oh,
towards
so
the end.
bad.
And then, of course, they almost returned that punt. They almost brought that thing to the house. Luckily, our guy Cam Brown with a clutch tackle to save a touchdown on that punt return. And then,
Huge.
sealed it up with a sack fumble to win the game. Great game. Very scary game, but a big win for the Giants. And Giants Nation, how does first place in the NFC East feel? Because
It's
it
been a
feels
minute.
really great to me,
It's
man.
been a
It
minute
has
since
been
we've
a
been able to
minute.
say that. It's
Our
been a
first
long
three-game
time.
win streak since 2016. Big,
Oh
big
my
day for us
goodness.
Giants fans. We
Huge,
are
but huge
finally
day.
turning the corner.
I'm excited about it. I mean, they only won 19-17, so it's time to temper our expectations for this team beating a very bad Bengals squad. Then it comes to the Daniel Jones injury, okay? I'm going to enjoy this victory right now, but we have to talk about a few main points. This is one of them. Daniel Jones pulled his right hamstring right after the second half started, was immediately pulled from the game, tried to get back in there, but he just couldn't stand on it, it seemed. He couldn't drive off his foot. He was basically just a statue back there, pulled him, put Colt McCoy in the game. And that's a really big injury because the Giants have to play Seattle next week, right? So, that's a huge contest for them. And I'm not entirely sure he's going to be ready for this game. I think, hamstrings can linger. I think that he's out for maybe 2 weeks and maybe 1 week if he can get away with just missing Seattle, which was going to be a tough game anyway. What do you think? You think 1 week, 2 weeks max? But otherwise, this is not a good injury for Daniel Jones. Hamstrings can be problematic.
I mean, I really hope that he doesn't miss any time. It doesn't seem likely. He was out pretty much the entire second half, which just makes this win far more impressive, that for the defense that we were able to win this game basically without a quarterback. We played with Colt McCoy as our quarterback. He had one nice throw to Shepard, which was really just an
Yeah, really nice
amazing
one.
catch by Shepard. So yeah, that was a good throw. But everything else was a real struggle for Colt McCoy and the offense. Wayne Gallman still looked great. He is phenomenal. I'm a big Wayne Gallman fan. Um, but this is scary because if we have to travel over to Seattle next week with Colt McCoy as our quarterback, that's going to be a really, really ugly game, I would assume. I
Hmm.
don't think Colt McCoy can handle that one. But looking at this from a positive light, if the Giants were to travel to Seattle next week without Daniel Jones, right? If Daniel Jones doesn't play in that game, at least he'll be coming back the following week against Arizona, who
Hmm.
just lost to the New England Patriots,
Yep,
have been
big
really
loss for them.
close in a lot of games. They've lost a couple of games that they should have won. They're a very inconsistent team. Who knows? Maybe Jones can step in, revitalize the offense that week, and maybe we can pull out an upset. That would be
Yeah,
nice. So if we need him out there for one of those two games, I think it's that one because that's the winnable one of
agreed.
those two for sure.
I agree, and realistically speaking, this was a must-win because the Bengals were the worst team that they were going to play the rest of the season.
Mm.
If there was any game that they need to lose or they could afford to lose, it's against Seattle because that's really the best team they're going to play. Baltimore, obviously, Browns and Arizona, very very difficult teams, but they can afford to lose against Seattle. So Daniel Jones missing that game. Isn't the worst thing in the world, but obviously you prefer to have him. Hopefully, he wakes up
Mm.
tomorrow and it feels a lot better. But he was standing the whole game. He was walking around. He didn't look like he needed a stretcher. He wasn't sitting down, which is a good sign for him. I think that they'll probably do a bunch of rehab this upcoming week. But again, I don't think he'll be ready to play against Seattle. I think they'll give him that week off just to be safe. They'll run the football hard, try to get that time of possession up. And that's kind of leads me to what I want to talk about with this game specifically. The Giants won in four major categories. So first, they won in total yards. 386 yards compared to 155 yards. So they completely blew Cincinnati out in that category. They won the turnover battle 3-1. The one turnover was Evan Ingram's fumble, which was, you can't happen. That's a momentum shifter. That those turnovers cannot happen. He continues to make these plays. Other than that, he had a phenomenal game. Made a few really big
Oh,
catches
yeah.
and was pretty good in the blocking game as well.
He had over
Um,
120 yards receiving. That was kind of a
mhm.
career game for him. He was really good. It was him and Jones had a phenomenal connection. Colt McCoy could not connect with him for some reason, but him and Jones, there's always those struggles with Evan Engram, the drops, the fumbles, whatever. He always makes a few bad plays here and there, but him and Jones
He's a
do
good
have some
player.
great chemistry, and when he's on
Agreed.
his game, he is phenomenal. He is a matchup nightmare. We saw it on that deep fade route that he caught, catch and run on the
Mhm.
right sideline. He had a one-on-one matchup, and he totally toasted the cornerback, which we've seen him
Oh
do
yeah.
before. It's just we've seen him do it, and at times he drops the pass. But this time he caught it, and when he's playing well, he is a special player for the Giants. It was good to see him really have a good game today, and kind of right some of the wrongs that he's had in the past, despite still fumbling the ball. That's it was kind of unlucky for him anyway.
It was. It was a great play by Von Bell. Perfect form. Punched it out. You have to give him some credit for that too. It was a really, really nice play by the defensive back. So, aside from the turnovers, though, the Giants crushed in time of possession. They had 37 minutes and 26 seconds of possession compared to 22 minutes and 34 seconds for Cincinnati. That's a massive difference. We're talking 15-minute differential. The Giants had the ball. They barely won this game. They've managed to squeak out a couple of victories with really big time of possession differences. They need to get some more points on the board in the future. Wayne Gallman running the football has been really good for them, but they cannot rely on that constantly because eventually teams are going to figure it out. They're just stacking the box. And Colt McCoy can't do much. He's not a starting level quarterback. He's a backup. So next week's going to be tough if Dan Jones cannot play. The fourth category they really did well in is first downs. They had 19 first downs compared to Cincinnati's 11. And I must say, man, I want to talk about this for a couple of minutes because Patrick Graham knocked the socks off of the Cincinnati offense. He was phenomenal. Logan Ryan, safety, had a forced fumble, almost an interception. He recovered the fumble he forced. That led to some Giants points. And, he deserves an extension. The guy's been awesome this year. I'm really, really excited about Logan Ryan continuing to develop in this scheme. And he looks like one of the best safeties in the NFL with the way he's been playing lately. And then you have, Darnay Holmes looked great at cornerback, made some really nice plays. That awful officiating call late on, defensive pass interference, embarrassing.
Perfect
This happens
coverage.
every week. Perfect coverage. This happens every freaking week for the Giants. I can't send enough freaking letters to the NFL to get this right, but every week the Giants get screwed on at least one play. 2 plays before that, Leonard Williams, personal foul, shoves Brandon Allen as he's throwing the ball. It didn't look like a vicious move to me. He pushed him right after he released the ball, which is like totally reasonable in my opinion. What, are you just not supposed to touch him? And then he doesn't even fall. He stumbles a couple yards and then he gets up. I'm like, he didn't body slam him or anything. It's just, I get what they're trying to do with trying to mitigate any more vicious plays on the quarterback, but that did not look like it was intentional. He pulled back. And then obviously that one against Darnay Holmes was awful. But Anthony, with Patrick Graham, what are you seeing with this defense and the way they're playing? It's just motivating, and they really came to Daniel Jones' aid today.
I mean, this defense is phenomenal. Like, Logan Ryan had one hell of a game. I thought Jabril Peppers played excellent. I think Julian Love was out there a lot more than I expected him to be. He was on the field a lot today, and he played great. We went with that 3 safety look pretty much all game. Xavier McKinney wasn't involved in it, but I assume that Patrick Graham was testing out that 3 safety look, trying to see when Xavier McKinney, when he's ready, trying to see how that 3 safety look works out, because once McKinney's ready, he should take that 3 safety look and just elevate it even further because he is excellent. We didn't see much of McKinney though. He's still working in. He probably played even less than 10% of snaps. He played like 3-4 snaps, but that's okay.
Exactly.
He's just getting ready. He's working in. I saw him on special teams. He almost blocked the punt. That was cool. And the pass rush today was pretty solid. A lot of nice blitzes and pressures. Darnay Holmes had a blitz off the edge where he lit up Brandon Allen. That was cool. Darnay Holmes also forced a turnover. He had the deflection that led to the Nick Lalos interception, which was incredible. Congrats to that guy getting elevated from a practice squad this week and making an interception. Just so happy for him, and that was a very clutch play. Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin looked pretty good. Dexter Lawrence looked pretty good. Leonard Williams had a sack and he recovered the fumble to seal the game. Tay Crowder was flying around the field, had a couple missed tackles, but looked pretty good as well, filling in at that linebacker 2 position. Just a lot to love, man. A lot to really love from this defense today. A lot of really great plays. Like you said, they forced 3 turnovers. Can't ask for much more than that. They really, shut down that Cincinnati offense all game long. Even, they scored that touchdown towards the end off of a terrible pass interference call, right? But up until then, the only points that Cincinnati scored was a field goal off of a turnover from the Giants and a kickoff that they brought to the house. The offense was shut out until the final minutes of the game, and they only scored off of a bad call. So really, it was a phenomenal job by Patrick Graham and the defense all throughout the game. James Bradbury, you didn't hear his name much. That's a good thing because he was on Auden Tate. He had a nice pass deflection on Auden Tate, and pretty much he just shut down anybody else that he was lined up against. He was phenomenal as always. Isaac Yiadom, he had,
great.
He let up that touchdown at the end, but other than that, I think he did play really solid.
Him. It was Darnay. Oh, was it? No, I thought it was somebody else that let
up the touchdown. It was Yiadom. Yiadom let up the touchdown at the end. But you know what? Brandon Allen had 136 passing yards today. 136 passing yards by Brandon Allen. That is just our secondary played lights out.
Great.
The whole defense
40 rushing yards.
It was phenomenal. Yeah. Phenomenal, man. Really, really 100%. Phenomenal.
And the Giants again, third straight game with 140 plus rushing yards, 142 on the day, a touchdown. They almost broke 150 for the third straight game. That is where the time of possession is coming from, my friends. That is why they are running the football. This is a run-first offense. I can't even imagine if they had Saquon Barkley, but Wayne Gallman's been, again, impressing me, running hard.
Gallman is phenomenal.
He always falls forward. The guy always falls forward.
He's a powerful
awesome
runner.
To see. He is. And I want to talk about 1 second Jason Garrett's play calling because he made some awful decisions late in the second half. These running back screens gotta go. He cannot be running Wayne Gallman east and west. Wayne Gallman has to be running north and south. He tried it twice and it failed twice. And then the quarterback sweep with Colt McCoy. What do you think?
Okay, that
what do you
that
think
one was actually funny. That play actually made me laugh. But okay, I'll explain two things, right? The running back screens I don't mind. I think when he ran it while Colt McCoy was in the game, Colt McCoy made a bad throw and bad read, right?
It was hot.
And it was just kind of, it was also like, you knew that was going to happen because Colt McCoy isn't going to push the ball downfield, so they knew the screen was coming. The first one, though, when Daniel Jones threw the screen to Wayne Gallman, if that ball doesn't get deflected, that was a 20-plus yard game. Gallman was alone over there with lead blockers. I liked that play call. I thought it was a good play call, just poor execution. Somebody missed their block and somebody was able to get their hand on the football. It was in air. So that's unfortunate, but I like that play call. And then the quarterback sweep, as funny as it looked and as kind of stupid as it was, it wasted like 40 seconds of game clock because he slid in bounds. It just gave them a couple extra yards and then it wasted clock. So I actually didn't hate that play call. I thought it was really weird. And it was kind of stupid, but it worked. It was effective. So, I don't know. I actually think that, for the most part, Jason Garrett called a pretty good game. He did the absolute best that he could in the second half with Colt McCoy
I'll give him that
at quarterback. And I think the running game was schemed together very well. And I think in the first half, he gave Daniel Jones a few opportunities to make some plays. And I think Jones delivered. He hit Ingram on that deep pass on the right sideline. And he threw a 55-yard bomb to Slayton on the left side that Slayton dropped. Slayton should have caught that. That should have been a walk-in touchdown. Yeah, Slayton finished the game with 0 receptions on 2 targets.
I started him
he has been disappointing. He's been very disappointing. He is very
targeted much.
He's very inconsistent. He shows up 1 week for a big game, and then he disappears for 2 weeks, and then he shows up.
He's a big player or die type of receiver at this point.
That's why I think, to me, he's a wide receiver 2. And once we get that dominant wide receiver 1 in the future, he's going to be excellent. But
I agree.
Focusing on this game, man, I think that Jones actually did play a pretty solid game. I can't believe that he threw that dime while he had no leg. His hamstring locked up, and he's standing there flat-footed in the pocket. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's hurt. And then he throws a dime to Gallman like that. That short little 5-yard pass while he can't even move his feet. That was impressive, man. That was a clutch throw.
He's a gamer.
Yeah, I think he played great. I'm disappointed that he couldn't finish the game, but I think that if he can stay healthy moving forward, this team, I truly believe, can make the playoffs and maybe make some noise in there too.
Playoffs,
man. Hey, man, we're talking playoffs because for the first time in a very long time, we are in first place in the NFC East, and that is really exciting. I don't care how terrible this division is right now. You have to think about it in the fact that the Giants have a brand new rookie head coach, and they're just now picking things up after 6 weeks. They were just installing their base concepts or whatever. They were struggling, and now once they had everything situated, they've been winning games. They're on a 3-game win streak, and they look really good, and they're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. I'm very excited about it. I think that the Giants are a lot better than their record indicates.
I agree they are. I think, they had some bye-week rust to shake off, and also Cam Fleming was not great.
He's atrocious. I need Matt Parrott out there ASAP.
3 penalties. I missed Matt Parrott so much during this contest. 3 penalties, and all of them were costly. All of them ruined drives, mind you. The one thing I will say is that the Giants didn't give up a single sack, which is the first time that's happened all year. So
The offensive line played
stuff.
pretty good. They
Aside
played
from
pretty
Cam
good.
Fleming,
I'm not going to lie.
They played well.
Cam Fleming struggled with the penalties, but overall,
Andrew
the
Thomas
pass protection
awesome.
was pretty good. The pass protection was really good, actually. And the run blocking was, for the most part, I'd say 70% of the time, 80% of the time it was good. There was a few times where it wasn't so good. And that usually came on the interior. I think that, yeah, Andrew Thomas was phenomenal today, honestly. That's my analysis of him. He was phenomenal. And Fleming was a struggle. He always is.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, man, once Matt Peart gets out there and becomes a full-time starter, I think we're looking at a pretty solid offensive line. It's got to. It has to at this point.
I agree. And
with the way Fleming's playing.
Yeah, there's a few things that we called. The first thing is Shane Lemieux has completely taken Will Hernandez's spot as a starter. Will Hernandez had one drive, I think. Shane Lemieux had the rest of it. So we called that. We said he was gonna take it over. And another thing that we called in the live stream before was that the Giants were gonna make Brandon Allen throw the football, because they completely took the running game out of their equation. They only had 15 carries for 40 yards. They made Brandon Allen throw the football, and he turned the ball over a couple times. One interception, the fumble at the end, and then he had the Logan Ryan forced fumble on the tight end. So I think it was Drew Sample. But this was altogether a defensive, stout defensive performance for the Giants. Very excited by this progression of that unit specifically. Once Daniel Jones is healthy and they get a so they're Matt Peart back and their offensive line's more continuous. I think this team is going to come together very nicely, but I think that they had some struggles that they shouldn't have, specifically on special teams. I think the special teams was the worst.
That was concerning. That's the worst I've seen that unit play in years, actually.
I agree. That was an anomaly, though, because the special teams has been phenomenal this year. I think that Joe Judge is going to rip them. I would love to be a fly on the wall when Joe Judge talks to that unit tomorrow or even after the game. But what I will say is if that special teams, if that first kickoff return for a touchdown, if Jabril Peppers catches some of those freaking footballs, if Riley Dixon doesn't hit that short punt, I think that the Giants end up winning this game by a much larger margin. And I think, you have to be playing perfect football in all phases, or at least good football in all phases. And the special teams did not come to play, and it hurt the Giants big time. But that's really
except for Graham Gano, though. Graham Gano is a beast.
He
kicked COVID's ass, and then he just came out here and kicked the Bengals' ass. That guy is a beast. Kicked
COVID's ass. Oh, 100%. 4 made field goals today. He's 24 in a row. Okay? The guy is an absolute cyborg of a kicker. I don't understand.
He's a beast, man.
He's a beast. I mean, he just came off COVID. He literally kicked the shit out of COVID. Then was like, I'm going to go kick 4 straight field goals and get my Giants a win. He was the reason they won, by the way. If he misses one of those 4 field goals, they lose that game. That's the difference between having a good and bad kicker.
Yeah, man. Graham Gano, phenomenal. Other than that, a lot to dislike about the special teams. You got to like Cam Brown, though. Like I mentioned earlier, clutch tackle at the end of the game on special teams kind of saved the game. That was huge. It's really exciting to see all these rookie defensive players make plays and contribute, whether it be on special teams or on the defensive side of the ball. These rookies 100%. Have been contributing. Darnay Holmes, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin was out there, got a couple pressures today. He looked pretty good. A lot to like from these young guys. I really think the Giants have a nice foundation laid out ahead of them, especially once we start to see McKinney play fully healthy. That'll be fun too. Like I said, man, I think the Giants fans can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think we can be pretty confident that our team is finally starting to turn the corner. Very exciting, and I think, a lot of credit goes to Joe Judge and a lot of credit goes to Patrick Graham, his coaching staff in general. Very pleased with everything that they've done. And also, before I wrap up my sentence, I'll point out this was our first game without a sack. This was our first game with Dave DeGuglielmo as the offensive line coach. Coincidence? I think not. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Very nice.
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Very nice observation. Nonetheless, my friends, a W is a W. We walk away 4-7. We're 3-4 in the division. First place in the NFC East. We have a big contest next week against the Seattle Seahawks, so we'll be previewing that all week, giving you guys all the information you need. As always, thank you for tuning into Fireside Giants, and let's go Big Blue.